start in with 10 minutes of.
Dear sisters, dear brothers, brother priests, and brother bishops, let me start with the light vein. There was an American who was visiting India. He met a Sardarji in Delhi, picked up a conversation with him and asked him, Sardarji, where are you from? And the Sardarji said, I am from India. My dear fellow, that is written on your face. But India is such a vast continent. From which part of India are you from? The Sardarji did not understand the question. He looked at himself up and down and he said, all my parts are from India. You see, I have 3 parts in my presentation. Actually, Romus must have come first to speak about this, and myself as a second one, because I speak more on the praxis. I have 3 parts, and the first part, I make some observation about the social teaching. You know, the social teaching of the church is nothing but the historical extension of the gospel. Beginning from 1891, Rerum Novarum, it speaks about the problem of the workers, And Jesus himself gives us the direction. If you read Matthew chapter 16, verse 3, Jesus says, you fellows, the Pharisees and the scribes, you are able to interpret the signs of the sky, but you are not able to interpret the signs of the times, through which God reveals himself very powerfully. And he chides them, So what did Jesus do? On the one hand, Jesus was continuously interpreting the signs of the time through which God was revealing himself. On the other hand, he was given the Abba experience, which was a pure gift from his Father. The interaction between these two, a constant interaction between these two, then emerges a new vision, which vision gives a roadmap direction for his mission. And that about which it was already stated here, Luke chapter 7, verses 18 and 19. And then after Jesus, you have the Second Vatican Council. Church in the modern world speaks about reading the signs of the time again and interpret them in the light of the gospel. Immediately after the council, Karl Rahner said, please don't waste too much time on the 16 documents of Vatican II. When I read that article, I was taken by surprise. He says, behind these 16 documents, there is a vision. Are you able to get this vision of this document? Especially from the church in the modern world, Which vision will give you the roadmap of action? And once again, Bernard Lonergan, the Canadian theologian, has said, one of the great merits of the Second Vatican Council, that it has moved out from classical consciousness to historical consciousness. What does it mean? Classical consciousness will always define the concept. But you should know those who define the concept also will control us. Who is man? A rational animal. And there is nothing more, there is nothing less and nothing else. Dogma also says this, But he is not only a rational animal. And where does this classical concept come. It should emerge from the social realities, the ground realities. And that's what the Bernard Lonergan says, the Canadian theologian, that the Second Vatican Council has moved out from this approach of classical consciousness to historical consciousness, referring to constantly reading the signs of the times. There's John Paul has something to say about the social teaching of the church, and he says, the church gives a clarion call for the church to move out from the sacristy by implementing the teaching of the social teaching of the church. And I just read a quote, a spirituality that does not translate into social concern of the social teaching of the church is a sacristy spirituality. Move away from the sacristy. And then when you come to Pope Francis, Laudato Si, Fratelli Tutti, and some of his, the basic document for him is the Evangelii Gaudium. The other things that come afterwards, they are only an explanation of the basic document, I had been listening from the first day on. Our topic is priestly and religious formation in India today in the light of Pope Francis' vision. I'm subject to correction. Not much is said about the vision of formation. Priestly, well, there was a lot of quotes from Pope Francis, but what is the vision of priestly and religious formation? Jesus gives us, one is the God experience, the mystical experience that we have on the one hand, and the other is reading the signs of the time. This reading is not you read the signs of the time as an observer. No, you get involved in the ground realities, the socio, the political, the cultural, and the religious, and then the interaction between this constant interaction between these two gives us the vision. And unless we have certain clarity about this vision, there will be no clear roadmap to achieve this vision. And this vision again is not very static. As ground realities keep on changing, the vision also keeps on changing. But with regard to this, social teaching of the church, and I hope the bishops are here, the bishops take the prescriptions of liturgy, the laws and regulations of liturgy, and the dogmas very seriously from the church. But the social teaching of the church, they don't seem to take so seriously. If somebody violates the liturgical prescription, they are taken to task. If somebody violates the dogma, they are taken to task. But if the social teaching of the church, if they don't do anything, as far as I know, nobody is taken to task. And therefore, when I asked a bishop, what do you think about the social teaching of the church? My dear friend, they are inspirational but not operational. I wish this convention, takes the social teaching of the church very seriously into the syllabus of priestly and religious formation. That being said, I come to Paul Parathalam, one of my good friends. We were classmates in Pune. Most of you know that he did a sociological investigation and the priestly and the religious formation in India. And one of his observations I just read, the formies, the formators, the bishops, and the lay people, all of them are not very happy with the existing formation system. But the irony is, none of them is prepared to leave the safe and security zone of the present system and launch into new experiments. I think dissatisfaction, or frustration is a very powerful call, invitation from God for a change. And this change can take place in two ways. I wouldn't say that no change has taken place, but changes have taken place from within. I come from St. Paul's Seminary, teaching for 18 years or so there. There had been a lot of experiments in the seminary, Inside the seminary, the animated system, new syllabus. We speak about the Dalit syllabus here. Already in 1980, and some of the students from here, including Nitya, will know that 1980 and 90, we already introduced this liberation theology and Dalit theology, the subaltern theology, all that, even the feminine theology. We, it has taken so long for us to repeat that again, So there were some, and then, what happens, most of us come from the village background, and the candidates are taken from the village background to a safe and security there, insulated. And then at one point of time they realize they are alienated. Where were they alienated? Alienated in the safe and security. Though then you speak about social exposure. You send them. Father Sebastian Coppen has a beautiful observation. They were in the ground situation, the realities of life. You take them from there, you alienate them, and then at one point you realize that they are alienated, you send them back to the villages for social exposure, Well, social exposure, it does some good. In St. Paul's Seminary, I was involved with some of the experiments, inside the seminary there were a lot of experiments. The syllabus changes and all that. Some eight bishops had given us permission to take their own students outside the seminary. We were living outside the seminary for for 1 full year, I thank the bishops who had given them permission to take their students out, launch into. Actually, I think when you go for new experiments, it needs courage. We are not very sure what will happen. There is certain risk when you take new experiments like that. But I do not want to go into the content of. We were there in a village surrounded by the poor people, the Dalits, the Hindus, 2-3 Brahmin families also were there. And they will go and visit the families, every Wednesday, which is a holiday, weekly holiday, we will sit together. And the liturgy that was celebrated there on that particular day for more than an hour and a half, it will bring in all the experiments, the family visits, what they have studied there in the classroom. Every day they will go to and actually we were given a very limited budget. But so my friends who are with me, they told me, we always have a very good lunch and a very meager breakfast and supper, because we had to confine ourselves with the limited budget. And every Wednesday, a meaningful liturgical celebration for which the raw material, the experience with the people in the families and all that, they became the raw materials for our prayer and our Eucharistic celebration. And once a month, we used to sit together at evaluation of not only what's happening, not only what they studied, evaluation of themselves. They would start the evaluation beginning with me, So what was my role? How did I? And I still remember one of them said, I had done also my thesis on Gandhi, doctoral thesis on Gandhi. Selva, they call us by name, Selva, you should not think that since you have a Qadr dhoti and shirt, you are not Gandhi. You be aware of it. There was a freedom, love unites those who are free and frees those who are united. The famous quotation of Roman Lull in the 13th century. Love unites those who are free and frees those who are united. And this went on. And once in 3 months, we gave an evaluation to the seminary authorities, administration, And then this went on. I don't want to waste too much time in the syllabus. It went on for 1 full year, after which an evaluation was made by the seminary authority and the board of bishops. They were very happy. Some of the things they said, I just mentioned a couple of things. The questions raised by the students who were with us, 8 of them, qualitatively were different from the questions asked by others in the seminary. Why? Because it was always people-centered, people from the periphery, people from the subaltern. It is from their perspective they always ask these questions. And they were hard-working because they would sit in the seminary during the lunch time, siesta time, they will sit and work, and evening they will come back, This is one thing. They also challenged the professors. They said, why don't you come and teach ecclesiology in the place where we are for a week? Tell us, what does ecclesiology mean in this context? Or what is the celebration of Eucharist mean in this context? And I should tell that by and large, the professors also were not prepared because they have prepared syllabus, which they can kind of give it there in the classroom. So not many of them were prepared. And then also they questioned the examination. You all speak about one of the 4 pillars is intellectual formation. You write essays, you write articles, you compose books. This is kind of the left brain animating the right side of the body. It is the right brain that must animate the left side where there is a heart. Art, music, sculpture, painting, dance, all that. Why don't you take these forms into account? We have a lot of experience. All that experience that we have, it has nothing to do with the kind of exam. They also threw questions to them, And some of the students and the professors who visited us there in the program, they wanted also to go next year. And finally, it came to the evaluation of the board of bishops. Since many of them wanted to go for this kind of a group living, finally the decision came from the board of bishops, you better wind up this experiment. It was very, very unfortunate. Had they allowed this experiment for some more time, I'm sure that St. Paul's Seminary, Trichy would have set an example. Fear. What did the bishops say, the board of bishops? What shall we do with these huge buildings, seminary buildings there? The point is, the existing formation, you are dissatisfied, you are critical, you are not very happy, but you don't want to get out. And this is the paradox, So this is one experiment. I was there afterwards in a parish, and one particular congregation, I don't want to mention, one particular congregation, prepared to send the novices for 6 months to be trained there. Once again, for a first month, they were there, put up in houses, very poor families. And the second month, they are asked to go and work along with the other women there in the field, in the farming, harvesting, building construction and all that, which was very hard for them. They were not used to, But this is how people earn their livelihood. We should be aware of it. And then, every now and then social analysis, socialists come from outside, they will help them. This social analysis is not only a kind of a theoretical framework in this particular context, they will take the ground realities and do the analysis, and social analysis is not one more subject. I go and teach socio-cultural analysis in some of the seminaries, and it hangs as one subject like any other subject. Social analysis must enter into all the subjects that we learn, kind of analyze whether it is Christology or ecclesiology or cultural anthropology. This must enter into all. It's not one subject, As the ground realities keep on changing, the analytical frame also keeps on changing, They were there for 6 months and they imbibed a kind of a new vision of formation. But the problem is, to cut the long story short, when they went back to the convent, they had problem. But these novices are praying very differently. They are questioning what's happening here. To the extent what they have imbibed there in the field, there must be also certain flexibility to receive them in the They once again they go and sit there in the old structures. I think this change is not only from these experiments. To that extent, the structures of the convent or the seminary or the parish should also change. These are 2 experiments. Then we come to what I have given there, the human formation. About this human formation, Pastorus Taubis speaks about the human, spiritual, intellectual and pastoral. There is no social. And anything human is, when Phyllis spoke about new social human, spiritual is socio-spiritual. Intellectual is not only purely intellectual, as we are all introduced here, we always speak about the academic career. What is the message that you are giving to us sitting here? What are you trying to tell us? This man did his doctorate there, did his essay here, wrote so many books there. What is the message that you are communicating to us? This is the most important thing. Intellectual formation is not the most important thing. Most of our time is spent in academic career, learning intellectual formation. Today they speak about emotional intellect. So you have the IQ, you have the EQ, you have the SQ, you should have another SQ, social quotient, that pastoral is not merely pastoral, it's socio-pastoral, that must be taken into account. And this must be done in the concrete situation, as the situation keeps on changing, the text of the syllabus also will keep on changing, So there is no kind of dynamic like this. And then this intellectual formation, of course, we must take into account the fast changing realities. One more observation about this. Iatrogenic illness. Some of the seminarians, I speak more about the seminary, when they came there for their first year of philosophy, I found some of them very human, very generous, very outgoing, helping. But once they become deacons, in one seminary they said, I also teach in other seminaries, once they were ordained deacons, they said, we will not anymore serve at the table. What has happened to these guys? This is called iatrogenic illness. That illness which is induced by the physician in the process of diagnosis and treatment. And therefore, what happens in the very rigid, secure structures, it is not formation, it's a deformation. Because 25 minutes are over. I have still 5 more minutes. So, I just want to quote Teresa of Avila. It says, the human relationship within a community are often a clearer indication of one's relationship with God than the heights of mystical prayer. Avila Teresa. And she continues, human interaction with others are more reliable indicators of one's relationship with God. And St. Augustine, clarifies this, saying that the way that you relate to the poor, the downtrodden, is the way that you relate to God. I think which we seriously should think about. And the prophetic character is the key to Jesus' mission, and the title prophet describes the Jesus of history. Therefore, this prophetic formation should overarch the priestly and the kingly formation. Here, the pastoral, before the Second Vatican Council, the pastoral was understood in very narrow terms. It is administration of the sacraments, liturgy, all that, breaking the. But I think the Second Vatican Council gives a very broader understanding of the word pastoral. It speaks about three things: the effective presence and witness in the world. One example, one Marxist was admitted there in his Isabel's hospital in Chennai. He was so taken care of, terminally ill of cancer. Before he died, he seems to have said, my mother and my wife, they had not looked after me the way that you have looked after. You were so good, you were so loving. If you are so good and loving, in whose name that you do, namely you call God, he must be a most loving person, a good person. This is the witness. And people listen to people who are witnesses, not teachers. Secondly, constant engagement with the world. That constant engagement with the world means that religion has two functions. A functional role of religion, you take care of all the faithful, administration of sacraments, preaching the word of God and all. It also has a performative function. And the performative function is what this religion does to people outside, people in the society. Gandhi would say, it is my religion that led me to politics. My politics is religious, my religion is political. So that performative function is not there. And the third is the prophetic intervention in a world of injustice. This must be taken into account. The next I skip and I come to the participation in the struggles of the subaltern people, for their. Once upon a time, René Descartes said, I think, therefore I am. And Freud said, I feel, therefore I am. And the poor people, the subaltern people, we cry for our rights, human dignity, life resources, therefore we are. And this is the cry, And, any structure which stifles the freedom, which destroys human dignity, which exploits the poor, it's an unjust structure. And when you become aware of this unjust structure, and if you do not do anything to change this structure in any way, then we are guilty. And this is moral theology is called this social sin of complicity. By not doing, you are only supporting, you are only encouraging, let it go. And therefore, this guilt that we are also part of the cause of injustice, oppression, poverty in this world, and thus guilt conscience should kind of bring about a conversion in us, a personal conversion leading to communitarian conversion, familiar conversion, and social conversion. And so the participation in the struggles, one of the questions that was asked here, what can we do when RSS is stifling us? We are a minuscule minority. There are movements there. PUCL, People's Union for Civil Liberty. PUDR, People's Union for Democratic Rights. Feminine Dalit rights. We can join some of these movements and support these movements directly and indirectly. And along with them, there are people, Stan Swami, he was one man's army, was able to kind of shake the central government. And he did not die. He was murdered. Therefore, I think participate in the struggles of the subaltern people for their life resources, human dignity, and the rest. And finally, to conclude, Jesus' vision of a new society stands before us as an unfinished task, summoning us to permanent transformation, and revolution. Thanks for the opportunity. Thank you.